As we know, the Tigers have had a ton of injuries to start off the season, but have managed to keep their heads above water here. We're going to talk about how they will continue to manage that situation and preview the weekend, all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, April 11th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Friday, everybody. We are going to preview some baseball, the Minnesota Twins series this weekend. We'll take a look around the AL Central as it stands right now, a couple of weeks into the season before that as well. But we're going to spend a lot of the show talking about just the organizational injury situation, which is prevalent. The beautiful thing about this conversation, okay, and injuries are never beautiful, and injuries in sports are like one of my least favorite things ever. And I'm sure that is a shared sentiment across most fan bases and most fans of sports. The silver lining here is that it has not completely derailed the Tigers season, right? I'm not coming on air and telling you, you know what, what are you going to do? They're so injured, right? What, can't really do anything about it, and using it just kind of as a reason for them to lose games. Oh, it's cold out, they're injured. We just got to kind of weather the storm and wait till they get back. No, the Tigers are in first place in the American League Central at the time of this recording, which is Thursday afternoon, and have now won every series they have played in since getting swept in the opening series of the season. They are 7-2 since that series ended. So they have been great. They have weathered the storm very well so far. And I think a lot of the questions throughout the fan base at this point are related to what roster moves are to come, right? There's a legitimate excitement right now because they're winning with, I think it's 6 people, hitters, that's not even including pitching, on the injured list. What happens when we start getting some of those players back into the mix? So we're going to talk about that a lot. I want to actually start by talking about the minor league injury update that the Tigers sent out. This will be super quick, I promise. The Tigers do a great job in the Scott Harris era of kind of sending out press releases of injury updates every week. I think the major league one is every week, and the minor league one is either bi-weekly or just monthly. Either way, the Tigers sent out their minor league update on Wednesday, and there's a laundry list of names. It's every minor leaguer in the organization. But the standouts to me are, you have Akil Baddoo still rehabbing. That's good. He's playing games. He's playing games in, I think it's Lakeland. It's either Lakeland or West Michigan. But he's playing single A ball, which I think is a good sign. The real gut punch, okay, the real kicker here is Kevin McGonigal, after the first game of the season, finds himself on the injured list with a right ankle sprain. Sounds like he'll be out for a minute. Now, right ankle sprain, not the worst thing in the world. I'm not worried about his future playing baseball. It's not that detrimental, but it does suck that the Tigers organization is going to be without his development for the next however long month or two. So hopefully he can, be on the fast track to recovery there, and we can get him back on the field as soon as possible, because that's obviously one of the best prospects in baseball and somebody that this organization is really going to rely on going forward. So obviously wishing him the best there. Couple other names, Ricky Vanasco, somebody who could find his way to a Tigers bullpen this year if there's, injuries or underperformances at some point in the summer. He is starting a rehab assignment as well. The other big one, okay, obviously McGonigal being probably the biggest one in the whole organization, maybe him and Gleyber, Parker Meadows, whatever. We've a lot of injuries right now. It really is not too fun. But Bryce Rayner, not on the injury report. The reason why that's weird is because he's injured. And I know you're listening to that and you're like, what the heck are you talking about? He got hit in the head with a pitch in, I think, also his first game, one of his first couple of games of the season. Has not played since. Again, at the time of this recording on Thursday. Has not played since, and yet isn't on the injury report. I'm assuming that's a good thing. I'm assuming that's like, oh, they're just doing, testing. I'm sure they have to go through like concussion protocol stuff. I'm assuming that that's a positive and not like, oh, we're not going to tell anybody about this like big serious thing. His family was, like tweeting about it and said that he was in good spirits. That's like the only remote update I've gotten. So I don't know. I know nothing. I've been asked this about a million times over the last week. I have the same questions as y'all, man. I have zero clue why he isn't on the injury update, but very clearly is out because of an injury. Very strange situation to me. So we'll keep close eyes and tabs on that. At the major league level, obviously, all eyes are immediately turning to Gleyber Torres. At the time of this recording, there is no update with Gleyber. The thing with the Tigers as they run with Hinch and Harris is that this is an organization that does not show its cards. They're very big on you're going to find out that somebody's back from the injured list, during warmups, the game that he returns. So I don't expect to know on Thursday. If I look like an idiot and there's some big update, late Thursday night and you're listening to this Friday and you're like, oh, but I thought, well, then you're right. And that's, reality. But I think that this is probably going to be more similar to like he just shows up one day unless he needs a rehab stint. And that's obviously the big question. Apparently, if he returns this weekend, the Tigers may just say no rehab stint. You only were out for a week and a half. Get back out there. If it's anything longer than that, then it sounds like a rehab, even if it's only a couple of games just to get his timing back down, might be something the Tigers do. So we will obviously keep an eye on all of those situations, and Gleyber Torres being one of the biggest ones that is looming, really trying to get him back into the lineup card. The question that comes with a bunch of people on the injured list, however, is when they start coming off the injured list, who is the odd man out? Who are the players that are getting sent down or whatever, waived, DFA'd, whatever it ends up being, to make room for these players coming back from injury? Matt Vierling, Winfield Perez, Manuel Margot, Parker Meadows, Gleyber Torres, Jake Rogers. That is 6 hitters, all on the injured list. So who goes down on the current roster for them? That's what we're going to talk about right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that is made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands. You'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person every time. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, you can use promo code SH5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back on Monday recapping this series against the Minnesota Twins. Today, however, we discuss potential roster moves that are looming. So I want to try to get this as close to chronological as possible. And obviously, if more injuries happen, then this pivots and changes more and more. But we're hoping that, 6 is kind of close to the limit here. So there's two off the bat that I want to start with here. One is Jake Rogers. I don't think Jake Rogers, certainly is not going to be chronologically the next person to come off the injured list. It sounds like he's going to be out for at least, a month-ish, according to Hinch, which sucks. The thing is, he's a catcher. So, there is no debate of, who do you send down when Jake Rogers comes back? It's going to be Tomas Nido. Okay. Really, no matter what him or Dingler do, Jake Rogers is going to be back and Nido is going to be sent down. So we can kind of remove that one from the conversation right away. That leaves us with the 5 remaining names. Gleyber Torres, obviously being the one that we can assume. And again, this is a lot of assuming. So you know what they say about that. So take that into consideration as you're listening and disagreeing. If we assume Gleyber is next up, I think that the fairly obvious candidate to get sent down when Gleyber returns is Brewer Hicklin. And the reason why, I know that that's a second baseman coming back for an outfielder. They still have plenty of outfielders without Hicklin. They have, obviously, Malloy has been DHing a lot, but can, if they need, play corner outfield. They already have, obviously, Green and Carpenter. Kreidler, that means, would stay on the roster. I know that some people are going to roll their eyes at that, but Hicklin's 0 for 9 with 8 strikeouts in his major league career. I think we're kind of splitting hairs debating on which one is going to hit better. So whoever they're more comfortable with, I guess if you're like, no, it has to be Kreidler, fine. The next player I talk about, then it's just going to be Hicklin then. But sure. Whoever they think is they are more confident with in center field. I think the bats are probably close to a wash. So I have Hicklin, and back to who else you have in the outfield. Then obviously on top of that, you have Zach McKinstry can play corner outfield. Again, you still do have Kreidler, so that's your answer up the center. I don't think they're going to be in a pinch for outfielders by getting him off the roster. He's been on the team for 2 or 3 games and has not seen the field yet. I don't think they're necessarily, pressed to get him out there based on, evidence of his stint so far. So that's kind of my assumption, but it obviously could be, if they think Hicklin's a really good defensive center fielder, I guess it could be him. We'll get into the Malloy Keith conversation here in a second. Next up is either Matt Vierling or Manuel Margot. Okay. And this is where there's a lot of nuance in this. This is where it gets really weird. So if we assume Vierling is back first, I think that the second Matt Vierling is even remotely able to play Major League Baseball again, Ryan Kreidler is off the roster. And even though going into the year, we expected Vierling to be the presumable third baseman, you are down so many center fielders that I think that you would immediately send down Kreidler and put Matt Vierling back in center field. Okay. So you've now removed Nido, Hicklin, and Kreidler and added Rogers, Gleyber, and Matt Vierling. Then when Margot comes back, you have a very interesting conversation because I think the 3 fairly obvious candidates to get sent down are now not in this equation. And again, Rogers and Nido, that timing wise, that one could be June for all we know, but those are the only 2 that are going to switch for each other. So I'm including him in this. So when Margot comes back, you are going to be left with the decision of Justin Henry Malloy back down I know I love the fact that he draws walks. I love the fact that he works counts, but they don't trust him on defense. He still is swinging and missing a decent amount. And I think his average is now like under 200. That's in like 4 or 5 games. I understand the small sample size. I'm just saying he's not going to have too much more of a sample size for when these guys come back, hopefully. Hopefully that's within the next couple of weeks. So you're going to be left with the decision of Malloy, Colt Keith, who we've talked about a lot, is struggling mightily. Defensively, offensively, really everything. I feel so bad for the kid. He told reporters the other day that his confidence is just kind of shot. And I appreciate the honesty and the transparency there. But that's obviously something that not only the Tigers want him to find again, but I'm sure he, more than anybody, wants to find again. This is a really highly regarded prospect that is going to be fine. I have no worries about Colt Keith long term. I read everybody's comments about like, oh, Colt Keith sucks and he whatever. He's clearly struggling right now, and I think that there is a way we'll talk about here where he gets sent down to the minor leagues, and I don't disagree with that decision. Long term, 10-year outlook, 5-year outlook, 3-year outlook, I still believe in the player wholeheartedly. So I think that when Margot comes back, it's those two, or it's nobody. You signed Margot to a split contract. He has a salary that he would make if he was sent to the minor leagues. If you like Malloy a lot, and Colt Keith maybe has showed some signs of improvement, or if you don't think that the minor leagues will help him, then the answer is just Margot. He gets healthy, and you've already predetermined that situation. Then when Wenceel Perez comes back, it's again either Malloy or Colt Keith or nobody. Then when Meadows comes back, you see what I'm seeing? Like, then when Meadows comes back, if Margot is back, it honestly might just be Margot no matter what. Perez is going to have to prove that he is a serviceable defensive outfielder this year, which I'm sure they want him to be and think that he probably can be, but needs to show that he's, can hit better against left-handed pitching. And then like Meadows is a big question mark. That could be the end of May. That could be like not at all this season. I have absolutely no clue. That is such a weird injury. I don't even know. Now, the weird flip side of this is what happens if Margot comes back before Vierling. And I know that on paper, you might hear that and go, well, isn't it the same answer? I actually don't think so. And the reason why is because I don't think this team trusts Manuel Margot in center field. I don't think they're going to play him there, which makes the signing a massive head scratcher to me. But regardless, let's say Margot is back before Vierling, okay? So you've sent Nito down, you've sent Hicklin down for Rogers and Gleyber. Margot comes back first. Kreidler probably isn't on the move, to be honest with you. Again, they want someone that can play center field, as frustrated as you are hearing this information. So if it is Kreidler that's just going to stay there, then when Margot comes back, you are left with the decision of Malloy or Keith, or I guess technically nobody. But I think that in that case, they would want Margot back in the lineup to help with, lineup depth and whatnot. That very well could be, honestly, either one of them. But that's another situation where if Gleyber is back, they don't need Colt Keith to fill a position. They have Andy Ibanez, who can play anywhere in the infield except shortstop. Zach McKinstry, who can play anywhere on the field pretty much, period. You have Sweeney and Baez, who you can both kind of move around. Like you and then Torkelson at first, and Malloy, honestly, at first. Like they don't need Colt Keith to fill a spot in the lineup card. So that would be a situation where I think you might see him get sent down. This is all just word vomiting. I just like rambled and threw a bunch of names at you and dates and stuff. I understand that this is very complicated. It's probably above my pay grade too. And there is a million different combinations that you can make to answer this question. I'm not even going to get to Meadows because I don't even know. Like, that's so far in the future. I don't even know who's going to be here and who isn't when that happens. But those other five, I think you have a decent kind of game plan of, at a minimum, the decisions you're going to have to make or the players you're going to have to choose between when they're healthy again. Okay. Hopefully that was somewhat followable. If it wasn't, I apologize. We'll try again next week. Okay. Let's talk about the American League Central and the Minnesota Twins, who you play this weekend. We'll do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back. Your third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, the Tigers play the Twins this weekend. Before we get into that series preview, I do want to take a look around the American League Central 2 weeks in, 3 weeks into the season, however many weeks in we are. And because it's fairly interesting. The Tigers sit atop, okay, the American League Central, which is another reason why we're doing it, just to kind of brag a little bit. Cleveland is on a 3-game winning streak at the time of this recording. They beat the White Sox on Thursday. The White Sox are 2-10 and in last place, to surprise to nobody. But Cleveland is after a kind of a slow start to the year, is now back to 500 ball. They're 6-6. Kansas City, this is a really unique one. So they beat the Twins 3-2 on Thursday. They are now 7-6 and in second place in the American League Central. They've looked solid. They obviously, to start off the season, won a series against Cleveland, then lost a series against Milwaukee, then took a series against Baltimore, and now just took 3 of 4 from Minnesota. That is an impressive start to the young season, and I think that I think as long as Bobby Witt Jr. stays healthy, and their pitching staff can stay healthy enough, which they've already had some injury concerns, Reagan's and whatever. If they can stay healthy enough, it's a young up and coming team that's probably going to be in the thick of it again. Now, the last team we haven't talked about is the Minnesota Twins, who are now 4-9 after this loss to Kansas City. They were my favorite to win the American League Central back in late February, I want to say. Gotten off to a brutal start this season, and injuries have not helped them going forward. Now, that kind of is like hand in hand with the Minnesota Twins at this point. They're one of the most talented rosters in baseball and just can't stay healthy for the life of them. The big one right now is there's a real chance that Pablo Lopez ends up on the injured list. Now, thankfully, it's a hamstring injury, so it's not, like a hugely serious throwing arm type of situation. But that is a guy that even if he only misses a couple of starts, 2, 3, 4 starts, you are going to miss, once or twice a week in a big way. And the Twins so far have kind of just felt like that team that like something goes wrong every game. Like they've had their games where they score a lot of offense and then the pitching bails. And then they have their games where the pitching looks really good and the offense gets completely shut down. It's weird, man. I just don't feel like the vibes are great over there in the Twin Cities. But I'm not boots on the ground up there either. Maybe the fan base is handling it in stride and is already kind of looking ahead and hoping they can get healthy again. We are, again, the Twins are 4-9. They're 13 games into the season. There's plenty of time left. This is not the team that they are going to be throughout the entire year. The Tigers play them this weekend, and the pitching matchups are TBD against Reese Olson. I'm assuming that TBD is Pablo Lopez's start while they decide what to do with that. Saturday and Sunday, you have Jackson Jobe facing up against Chris Paddock and Casey Mize against Simeon Woods Richardson. Simeon Woods Richardson, the Tigers played a couple of times, I feel like, last year and didn't do well, I know, in one start, but I think maybe did kind of a little bit better in the other one. He also kind of slipped up as the season went along. Paddock had a 5 ERA last year and has gotten smacked in his first 2 outings this year. Like 3 runs in 4 innings in his first start of the year, and then gave up 9 earned in his last outing. Like his ERA is like 12 or something. Okay. It's a low strikeout, low walk rate, to be fair to him, but like a low strikeout, pitch to contact guy that doesn't get ground balls either. Like he's a fly ball guy. You're in Minnesota. I don't know. The problem with me, okay, don't answer that question. The problem that I'm having is that I feel like I am going into every single series just looking at the pitching matchups and going, well, how are we not, favored? How are the Tigers? How should I not expect to win this series just based on the pitching matchups? There's an argument the Tigers have the advantage in all 3 games. And like, honestly, there's an argument that they have a comfortable advantage in all 3 games in terms of starting pitching. The Twins offense hasn't been as good as people thought it was going to be, but it's still very talented. And that is obviously where in this series they, on paper, outmatch you. Now, so far this year, the Tigers have been very solid offensively and have one of the higher ranked, upper half of the league, top 10 at one point, offenses in baseball, but that's a very small sample size, as I've said a million times. So, for this weekend, I really do think that the expectation should be to walk out of here with a series victory. And like part of that might be recency bias of just, like jumping ship on the Twins too quickly just because of a slow start to the year. Like I don't want to overreact to 13 games either. But I look at the pitching matchups this weekend, and I think that it's fair to expect the Tigers to go in there and walk out of there with 2 of 3. Hopefully that's the case. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back on Monday recapping this series where I will inevitably be very wrong. I appreciate you all greatly for tuning in, even on an off day. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I will catch you all on Monday, baby. Go Tigers.